Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. With the Season 6 update today, we of course got a new meta update and a new weapons update, and included in that, we did end up seeing two new weapons drop. The Geist Assault Rifle, which I actually already covered in a separate video. If you haven't caught that yet, feel free to go and check it out. Then we also got the ISO 9mm SMG, which, well, surprise, surprise, it feels, looks, and plays a lot like the ISO 45 SMG. They are a similar platform. They're similar in a lot of ways. However, this does actually have its differences and its strengths against something like an ISO 45 that I think a lot of players are going to enjoy. It's definitely something that I could see dominating the close range meta for a few specific reasons here and there that we'll get into. As we do get into the details, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you are always up to date with absolutely everything going on in COD on a daily basis. News, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns, it's all right here. Feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But looking at some gameplay here, we do have the ISO 9mm SMG, and right away, obviously, this thing looks just like an ISO 45. This will end up sharing some attachments with the ISO 45, so you'll notice some differences in some areas, but you'll notice a lot of similarities for the most part as well. This is a bit more of an aggressive version of the ISO 45, though. It obviously is a different ammo type, 45 versus the 9mm here, but with that, its mobility is really what stands out to me, and that's something that I think a lot of players will take note of when they're looking at their close range setups. The ISO 45 is decent for mobility. The Lockman sub is decent for mobility. The P90 MP7, this thing you can really fly around with, and close range, it's going to actually end up killing pretty quick because the fast fire rate that it's got. So if we look in the firing range here initially, just check the quick little ADS speeds, at least with the build that I've got here, which obviously we're going to dissect here momentarily, but it's a pretty snappy ADS speed for sure. Initially, just shooting the door here with the base recoil pattern, it's going to be pretty similar to like the ISO 45s, right? We do have the 50 round mag gun here, which is pretty nice, but it's a very predictable recoil pattern up and to the right. And something to note here that I personally really like is that there's not much deviation in the bullets. Now, there will be the further you get out if you're fighting, you know, instead of the whatever this is, 7 meters, let's say, in game, if you're fighting at 15, 20 with this thing, the pattern will be a bit more spread, and that'll be something you'll have to take note of then and there. But it's a pretty straightforward pattern for a sub. There is some visual shake and some visual bounce, of course, just like with the ISO 45 when you're actually shooting it, but for the most part, it's relatively controllable, relatively easy to use. You can see there's no way there's another playlist update. If you watched the initial Geist video earlier, we had a playlist update, and they're throwing me another one. These guys and their playlist updates. Anyways, I was gonna shoot some dummies. Obviously with the ammo here, you can see, I mean, it's gonna be pretty standard for a sub. Anything beyond 20 meters is gonna not be super doable with it, but it's actually relatively easy to control, which is nice and surprising. Over a range though, you're gonna see, obviously, it's not going to do damage because this is not where this gun is meant to be used. It is like a 10, 15, 20 meter and closer. So if you're anywhere outside of the second dummy range, it's probably not going to be a great option, but for that ultra close range, because you're going to be able to fly and fry with this thing, it's going to be solid for that. Hey everyone, very exciting stuff today. You may have noticed, but I am in fact rocking the brand new Diablo frame from Gamer Advantage, and these are highly requested. They are the aviator style, and I can say with confidence, not only do these things look absolutely phenomenal, but they are some ridiculously high quality frames. The Gamer Advantage team absolutely knocked it out of the park with these frames, and if you're looking to get a pair for yourself, you can throw in code Immortal to check out for a nice little discount. So when we get into the general loadout here, this is actually one that can be shared between multiplayer and Warzone, just like with a lot of the SMG loadouts in this game, just because you're taking the same style of close range fights in multiplayer in 6v6 when you're running and gunning, and in Warzone with an SMG, you're obviously only fighting up close as well because they're just not utilized past 20 meters or so, as we discussed. So you can use this in both modes. There are some things you can adjust based on your level of comfortability with this gun. However, couple of standards though, the 50 round drum. You have to be running this. This is a fast fire rate weapon for sure. So having as much ammo as possible here is absolutely necessary. You do not want to be running the base mag, which I think is 33 bullets. Even in multiplayer, that runs out really quick. So I'd recommend 50 for sure here. 20 is absolutely not something you'd ever want to run. And then also the 7mm laser, just for that better ADS less than sprint to fire. Obviously, it's going to make you a lot snappier there, and that's always great for a sub. This is, of course, something we run on quite literally every single SMG loadout that we discuss. Right now, here's where things get a bit more personal. For me, I really like the feel of the Res 2 stock. I tried out some of these other ones like Mace, which of course we see on the ISO 45. I tried the collapsed as well, and ultimately what it comes down to is Mace, I didn't really like the aggression with this. It's easier to shoot for sure, but the mobility didn't feel as pristine. And with collapsed, while you were flying around, the mobility is insane. The recoil, the visual shake was just not it. So there's a little bit too many cons here on this to really optimize it. Res 2 is that nice balance of some decent mobility, and it's not hurting your control too much. So I really do like that on there. Now, another one that you can mess around with is the sheer rear grip versus something like the Stout, which is for better recoil control. I like the mobility and the aggression of the sheer, just like on my ISO 45. Stout, though, it's not going to hurt your mobility any, which is nice. It's only going to hurt your stability, which is not a huge deal on an SMG style loadout. So you could absolutely change over to this, and it's still going to feel really reliable and still pretty snappy for the most part. Definitely experiment around with those, whether it be in plunder or the firing range, and see what you're more comfortable with. Another thing to briefly note here, for what it's worth, if you don't want to run a rear grip, I also think a solid alternative would be to run something like the hollow point ammo, which, as we know, is sort of spiked up recently in terms of usage because it is super annoying to run into in game with its ability to slow you down. So there definitely are some different ways to mix and match various attachments, again, depending on how you want the gun to feel. Then lastly, I do go for a muzzle here. I was messing around with the flash hider personally. I like the feel of this. I sort of got pretty comfortable with this relatively quickly. It's just going to be pretty basic and help out with that recoil steadiness. That said, if you wanted to jump over to Lockshot KT85, maybe even the Castle compensator for more horizontal based control there, you absolutely could do so. There's not going to be a wrong answer between these. I probably would not recommend using a suppressor on these. As you guys know, we don't really use suppressors or silencers on any of the SMG loadouts here to begin with, just because they're going to hurt your mobility and your ADS speed a bit too much, that their close range efficiency is going to dwindle a little bit. And with how snappy that TTK is in those close range engagements, not having that faster ADS could be the difference maker. So those really aren't all that necessary. Plus, you're not showing up on the mini map anyways, so I mean, you don't have to use these to begin with. So definitely one of the compensators are here, I feel like works well, but depending on how you want the gun to feel, choose between these three with the KT85 Castle and then the flash hider as well. All good choices though. Definitely a nice and aggressive SMG that does bring some new sort of variety to a category that's been long dominated by the Lockman sub and the ISO 45, both of which were not nerfed somehow, so there's still going to be good choices too, but this at least slides in there next to those. That being said, that is going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it, would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you are always up to date with absolutely everything going on in COD between MW2, Warzone, and soon to be MW3. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.